Hello, Gush, alumni and Talmidim. It is a great pleasure and zechut for me to reconnect with everyone through this medium. Parshat Maaseh is one of the most controversial psukim in the whole 20th century. Beginning of Shlishi, it says, "Varashtem et aras v'yishavtem ba." You should go ahead and dwell in the land of Israel, conquer it, live there. And what does it mean? What are the ramifications? Has been a subject to dispute for many, many centuries. Two of the most famous shitot in this argument, the Rambam and the Ramban. The Rambam does not count it in the 613 mitzvot, while the Ramban does in his famous mitzvah. At the end of the Rambam's list of 613 mitzvot, the mitzvot say that the Rambam did not include, the Ramban says in mitzvah Dalid, there's a mitzvah to go ahead and conquer Israel, dwell in it, and not leave it in the hand of others. And Ramban says this applies in all generations. The Shulchan Aruch and Even HaEzer, Siman Ayin Hey, writes that a man who decides, a husband decides he wants to make aliyah can force his spouse, and a wife can force her husband. It goes both ways. The Pitchei Tshuva there says, in Siman Ayin Hey, Sif Katan Vav, that the reason the spouse can force the husband and the wife, they can force each other to go to Eretz Yisrael is because there's a mitzvah that applies in all generations, and muskam b'chol haposkim. So that's the Pitchei Tshuva explaining the Shulchan Aruch on why this is halacha in all generations. And then in the 20th century, the Mizrahi movement and the Aguda movement, the question is, how does this mitzvah apply in those days, where it was a fascinating development that many Jews who were no longer connected to the Judaism in an active way in terms of observing the 613 mitzvot, they were at the front of the movement of bringing everyone back to Israel. And the question is, Varashtem ta'aretz v'yishavtem ba, does that mean that the front people should join the people who are not totally observant and work together to build up Eretz Yisrael? Now, what's fascinating is that Machlokas, already in 1903, Rav Reines, when he set up the Mizrahi movement, he said, yes, we must work together. And Rav Wasserman and others setting up the Gush says, absolutely not. What's incredible is that Machloket is really going on till this very day to some degree or another. How the religious relate to the not fully observant. How do we relate? How do we work together? That Machlokas is over a century old and no sign of resting at this point. So there's a lot to learn and analyze in terms of the pure halachot, but I'd like to focus on something else. I'd like to talk about the rules of engagement in a machloket. There's different ways that we can argue with each other. And I think this is important not only when we learn Parshat Maaseh, but when we are observing the 3 weeks. We are in Avelut now, from Shivas B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, because we no longer have the Mikdash, and it's 2,000 years that we are mourning. I think there's an indispensable point that we need to make here, not only regarding the question of Yishuv Haaretz, and the Machlok of Rav Reines and Rav Wasserman, much broader than that. And that's the following. In 1980, an incredible book was put out by Afakumi, a young Talmud. And Merkaz Arav was gunned down. And they found his manuscripts and they put it together. Incredible. Shapiro wrote to Rosh Yeshiva that I knew he was a Talmud Chacham, but I knew he was learning day and night. But this is incredible, this young man. This is what he was capable of doing. So it's an amazing sefer on all the different shitot in Eretz Yisrael. But to me, the most remarkable lines in the sefer is the introduction, the haskama, the approbation. You have Rav Yosef, of course. You have Rav Shapiro, Rosh Yeshiva Merkaz Arav, and then you have Rav Moshe Feinstein. And Rav Moshe Feinstein writes, I read the book, and especially the chapter where he analyzes my tshuva on the topic of Eretz Yisrael, where Rav Moshe did not really hold Zachir from the Torah. He says not Zachir from the Rabbanon, and he did not make it into the most supreme mitzvah in the Torah. That's clear. And Rav Glat, when this young man is analyzing Rav Moshe, the Gadol Ador, he challenged him. So Rav Moshe writes, I read the book. It's a beautiful book. I saw what he wrote about my opinion in Igros Moshe. He's wrong. I disagree with him. The Frizal and Midani exaggerated a bit. Young Talmud, Rav Moshe didn't write it this way. It's a young Talmud challenging the Gadol Ador. And Rav Moshe says, but he's arguing L'Shem Shamayim, and you should read the Sefer, and it's a great zechut for him, a great honor to learn in his memory and to learn his Torah. It's such a gem, those few precious lines from Rav Moshe, because that's what we need to do during Shiva Asar B'Tammuz until Tisha B'Av, the 3 weeks, and carry that over to the whole year. We need to learn how to have an argument, whether it's religious Zionism, where that's still going on strong, and we can argue with each other and say, I think you're wrong because of this and because of that proof and this indication. From that Sifri and that Midrash over here and that Gemara there. But we can argue and dispute in a respectful manner. And we know the rules of engagement. That a person, most of Klal Yisrael has accepted that a person subscribes to the 13 principles of faith. And he's anchored in the Shulchan Aruch. So there's no terms here. Bikores, Kofar, Min. Chas v'shalom. Rather, we have a good, healthy argument. And both are within the fold. We can be strong with our convictions. We can say the other sheet is wrong, just like Rav Moshe said about this young bacher. So it's Zechono Livracha Hashem Yikom Damo. And just like this young bacher, it's Verglat, said about Rav Moshe. But that's good, healthy debate. All the Shas is filled with that. And to me, that's one of the greatest lessons that we can learn during the 3 weeks. To be able to go ahead, have debates, see the other side, challenge the other side, see what we think is wrong with the other side, but also see the beauty in the other side, maybe not in this specific shita, but in other areas, see the beauty of this other shevet, this other side, this other shita. And then maybe, many of us, especially in the Gush world, hold that the Medina is a great bracha. Many of us hold it's the beginning of the Gula. And we understand those who argue. But maybe, if we could really have disputes l'shem shamayim, where there's no labeling apikoros and kofar unless chas v'shalom someone abandons the ikarim. The Netziv says in the beginning of Bresh introduction, that's already different. You abandon the ikarim, but otherwise, persons within the fold, we have good, healthy debates, argue our points, and then in Yetz Hashem, when we can have that approach and undo the problems of Sinat Chinam, then Yetz Hashem, it won't be the period of Reshit Tzmiach Gulateinu, or just the beginning of the flowering, but Yetz Hashem will reach the Gufa of Gula Shlema.